Welcome back, my fellow game developers, to a brand new long video. We are not going to waste any time in this video. What we do is when we kill the enemies, this is not very exciting, I'll just tell you. When we kill the enemies, we pick two random numbers. That's it. That's all that we do. Next video you'll see why, but it's a pretty complicated concept where we learn a new kind of loop. We learn the truth tables, so it's very, very worth it. So let's not waste any more time and let's get started. Okay, so now we are completing the waves. It's time to leave the room and go to the next one. So how are we going to do this? Let's just take a brief moment to talk about that. We're going to go into the rooms, the doors, and as you can see we have two doors with two portals behind them, and this is something that will be the same in every single level. I didn't want to add too much things, just to keep everything less complicated and understandable. So what we have in here are the two portals and the two doors. So what happens when we kill all the waves or all the enemies in the last wave, these doors will have the ability to open up. But as you saw in the game Hades, we have always two options. So we have two portals that we can go through, one for, let's say, the shop, the other one to another enemy arena. And that's what we want to also do. We want to have the option to go to one of these two. So we'll need to set these two portals beforehand and these two doors also beforehand. Later on we will be creating maybe some kind of maybe name appearing once we are next to the door, so when we open it we know where we are going. But for now let's just focus on actually changing the, where is it, if we click on the portal, unlock this, you can see that we have the level to go, or the level to load. So what we'll do is we'll try to change these as soon as we kill the enemies. So let's get started. I'm going to go back into our code, and the first thing I will do is I'm going to go into the level exit in here, and instead of using a string we are going to be using a integer. So an integer. Why are we working with integers? Well, because in here we will be using several methods in the scene manager that can only take an integer parameter that we can work with. So that's why we are changing it to integer. Later on you'll see why all of this is happening. I'm going to make sure that this is commented out, and later on we'll come back and change it. But for now, because the loading level is taking in an integer, or you know what, let's keep it and let's keep it and let's go to the level manager, and in the loading next level, instead of a string we are going to use an integer. So the next level is an integer, and the load scene can actually take an integer as a parameter. So everything is working good for now. The next thing we need to do is we need to set the two doors, or the two level exits. And because we already have everything set up and we know that there will always be two doors, to just make it simple, I'm going to create a public int level to go to _1, and then I'm going to copy this and make it the _2. So this is for the second level. And then I'm also going to create a public level exit, and this will be the level exit _1 and the level exit _2. So now we have the two level exits ready, and let's go ahead and create a level picker. So I'm going to scroll down, but not too much, maybe right here, and I'm going to say that I have a public void level picker, and in here we are going to be employing a couple of things. So what we want to do is we want to pick a level. But that's not as simple as you might think, because let's say we are currently on the skeleton level, the skellies, okay? And let's say we have the option to go, for example, to the shop. One of them will be the shop. We will try to choose a random level. So we have the option to go to the shop on the first door, but on the second door we get the option to go to the skellies. But we've already been in the skellies, so the thing that we need to keep in mind is that every time we want to have the option to choose another level, it has to be different than the current level that we're on. And not only that, we need to also have the level on the left door different than the level on the right door. So essentially, we need three things to keep track of: the level we're currently on, the level that will go to if we go through the first door, and the level we'll go to if we go through the second door. So how are we going to do this? How are we going to implement this finding things while we are still on the same level? This is where we will use something called a while loop. So let me tell you what a while loop is, and you'll see how important it is in this situation right here. So first of all, it's similar to for loops. It executes a block of code a number of times. Instead of determining the number of times beforehand, we wait until a certain condition is met. So this is perfect for our case right here, because we don't know how many times we have to go through looking for a level, but we know that we will keep looking while the level that we want to set on the first door is different than the current level, and we will also keep looking while the second level on the second door is different than the first one, which is already and different than the level we are currently on. So let me just take you through the structure of the for loop. You can see right here we have the while. We open up the brackets, we put in a condition. It's exactly the same as the if statement, and if it is true, then we will do something, code execute, and then go back. Did the condition change? If it hasn't, we go back. So make sure to take precaution whenever using while loops, because they can cause a lot of problems. You can end up in an endless loop where the condition doesn't change and your Unity will crash. Trust me, it happens to me all the time whenever I'm using while loops. So make sure you know the problem, make sure you always change the condition and always get out of the while loop. Anyways, with that said, let's go back to Unity in here, Visual Studio. And what are we going to do in here? We are going to say that while level to go to 1 is equal to the scene manager dot get active scene dot build index, then we are going to go ahead and create a random number, which is equal to a random dot range from 0, or actually from 1. Why are we using 1? Well, because we know that the scene on index 0 is not something that we would like to go to. Let me show you what I mean. If I go back into the file, build settings, the first one is the title screen. The new weapon spikes and everything is available except for the 0, and obviously the last one. So in here, the random will start at 1. So from 1 to the scene manager dot scene count in build settings, and you can see right here this is the number of scenes in the build settings, and we are going to reduce it by 1 because obviously we don't want the last one in there. So now that we have a random number of our scenes, I'm just going to go ahead and print that random number. So print, and let's say the room, or the random number is, and plus rand. And then in here we are going to set the level to go 1 to be equal to rand. Okay, so what's happening in here? First of all, we say that while the level to go is equal to the current build index, then we are going to enter the while loop, choose a random number, assign it to the level to go. If it's still the same, and then check the condition in here. If it's still the same, then again we will create another random number and assign it to the level to go. And we will keep doing this while the level to go 1 is equal to the scene manager or the build index of the scene that is active right now. Once it's not, once this condition is no longer met, we will continue on to setting other things. But before we continue, obviously we need to do something, which is set the level to go 1 to be equal to the scene manager, the just copy this one. So we're just setting it at the beginning as this one, just so we can enter into the loop and then continue on. So let's save that. Let's go back into our game. Oh, and we actually, we haven't called this yet. So to call this, where should we be calling it? I believe this is part of your challenge. Well, I think it will be part of your challenge. So unfortunately, we will not be able to test it. But, or you know what, let's test it out. So if I go to, where do you think? If you want to, you can make it a challenge, but unfortunately, I've already shown you. So in here, when we said the debug all waves are complete, let's just keep this, remove the comment, because now we can actually go ahead and access the level manager, and I believe it is an instance, and we will access the level picker, and now we can actually pick a level, and we should also make sure that the waves are complete. And we also need to make sure that the waves are complete. So how are we going to do this? This is something we should have done prior, but no worries. We're going to create a private variable in here and waves complete. And we'll set it as false at the beginning. So private, sorry, Boolean waves complete. And where do we set it to true? Down here after all the waves are complete. So waves complete is equal to true. And where does this affect everything? Well, up here, if we look where we are spawning every single time, so I'm going to indent this using the tab, and I'm going to say if waves are not complete yet. So wait, waves complete are not yet complete. So if this one is still false, which it should be false until we turn it to true right here. So let's just keep it as that. I believe this will work, but you know what? I'm going to add the two squiggly lines to make sure everything is set up properly. So now, once we destroy or finish all the waves, waves complete is done. We are no longer counting down, and we choose a level. So we'll try to see how that looks in our game. So we run, and I believe we should remove the, just to make it end faster. So I'm going to shoot the enemies a couple of times, wait for the second wave, which are the cowardly flying eyes. I'm going to shoot the cowardly flying eyes, and there we go, and we have one still here. So once we kill it, we have the random number 3. Let's open up the console and pause the game. So if we look in the console, we have the random number is 3. So obviously this worked for the first time. Let's see what the build index for the skellies are. It's 2. So 3 is the boss level. So we chose another level. Excellent. I really wanted for you to see the random number being chosen multiple times, but no worries, we will have a lot of opportunity for those things. I'm going to remove this one in here and the debug right here, because we already know everything is working perfectly fine. But there is obviously still the second level that we want to set. So I'm going to issue it to you as a challenge. And your challenge is to set the level to go to. Get it? Pun intended. So after setting the first level to go to, we need to set the second one. And the second one should be different than the first level, and the first level to go to, and the one we are currently on. So you'll need to make sure to initialize it. And I'm going to give you a hint, because we want to make sure that it's different than the first one and different than the one we are currently on. So you'll need to use the OR for the while condition to stop. And I haven't shown you this yet, so I'm going to show it to you right here. If you want, you can maybe, I don't know, take a screenshot, or maybe then go back and see the whole steps of the challenge. I'm going to now show you the AND the truth table and the OR truth table. So let's start with the AND. So the AND the truth table, how does it work? If we have several conditions, as I've said right now, we need to make sure that it's different than the current level and different than the first one we've set. So it has to be a while loop which checks for using the OR. So while level 2 that we are going to set is equal to level 1 to go or level 2 to go, then we will need to change it. It needs to be different than both. So let me show you how the AND truth table works. If we have two true, we get a true. If we have a false and a true, we get a false. If we have a false and a false, we get a false. If we have a true and a false, we get a false. But when it comes to the OR, you'll see that if we have one false and one true, then the answer will be true. But if both of them are false, then the answer will be false. So with that information, I know it's a bit confusing. Now when we do actually have the solution for the challenge, I will explain to you everything, even though this video is getting very long. But no worries about that. Pause the video right now and go do the challenge. Okay, welcome back. How did you get on with that? So in the level manager, I know this is one of the tougher challenges, but we are in the advanced challenge. So in here, I'm going to say that while level 2, the level to go to is equal to the level to go 1, or, where is it? How's the or? It's these two columns. Or the level to go to is equal to the scene manager dot build index, so the current one. Then in here we are going to go ahead and do the same exact thing. Copy this, paste it in here, and the random number 1, random number 1 and random number 2, and the level to go to is equal to random 2. And in here we are going to say that the level to go to is equal to the scene manager dot instance dot, or we can say that level to go to is equal to level to go 1, but you know what, I don't want to risk that. Let's just keep things safe. Paste it in here, save that. What is happening right now? So there is a problem because we cannot use the level exit to. We need to set the level to go to. Save that. So what's happening in here? We've set the level to go to be exactly as the scene manager or the build index on the current scene. And in here we check what is the condition in here. As we've said, if we go back into our truth table of the OR, let's keep it here and let's see how everything is looking. So we start off by checking, is level to go to equal to level to go 1? And currently the level to go level to go 1 will be different than the current scene manager. So this condition is false, which is good. That means we will not enter into the while loop. But we then check level to go to, is it equal to the current build index? It is. Then we have a true condition, which is right here, and a false condition, which is right here. So if we look in the truth table, we have a true condition with a false condition. That means the whole set of conditions is true. That means we then go back into the while loop, and that's exactly what we want. If we have one of these true, we want to go back and create another random number and set the random number again. And we will keep doing that until this condition is false and this condition is false, because only two conditions that are false make a total false. So back in here, if the level to go to is different than the level to go 1 and it's different than the current one, only then when both of these are false, the entire condition is false and we continue on. So let's go back in here, we will print those and run the game. And let's remove the level manager. Let's remove one of the scary guys, and let's remove this one also and run the game because we want to demonstrate this pretty fast. So the enemy will appear in just a bit. So there we will have only one skeleton, two skeletons actually. Once we kill them, we should see that. There we go. So we killed them. Go to the console, pause the video, pause the game, I mean, and you can see that the random number 1 is 3, the random number 2 is 4. They are both different. We've picked levels. Make sure to commit your changes, and I'll see you in the next one.